and welcome to La Rosa Reads. I'm Denise La Rosa, and today I will be unpacking my reading experience listening to the audiobook Protecting Whitney by David Roberts. Before we begin the book review, I would like to pay homage to the one, the only Whitney Houston, who wasn't just a voice, she was the voice, a once-in-a-lifetime talent. She defined and redefined pop music, fusing gospel, R&B, and soul with an effortless power that made her a global icon. Selling over 200 million records, she set records no one has touched, including 7 consecutive #1 hits, more than even the Beatles. Her 1985 debut gave us Saving All My Love for You and The Greatest Love of All, but it was Whitney, her album in 1987, that made history. She was the first female artist to debut at #1 on the Billboard 200. I saw her on that tour, the Moment of Truth tour, and it was unforgettable. The kind of voice that lifted you, made you believe in something bigger. Then came I Want to Dance with Somebody, I'm Your Baby Tonight, and of course, I Will Always Love You, the biggest selling single by a female artist ever. But beyond the stats, Whitney's music meant something. Her voice was there at weddings, breakups, celebrations, and quiet moments of hope. Even as the years passed, her impact never faded. My Love Is Your Love from 1998 proved she could evolve, blending with the next generation of R&B, and even after her tragic passing in 2012, fans never let go. We never let go of her music because it still finds new hearts, new ears, and new believers. Whitney Houston wasn't just an artist. She was a feeling, a moment, a legend. And for those of us lucky enough to have seen her in her prime, she remains the voice of a lifetime. As a true Whitney Houston fan, I have to admit to you that this was indeed quite the listening experience. I am going to share with you my initial reaction to listening to this audiobook upon the completion of my listening experience, as well as share with you some key takeaways that I walked away from this audiobook holding near and dear to my heart. Let's start with my initial reaction immediately following the end of the listening experience. I just finished Protecting Whitney. Read this book. I actually suggest you listen to it. It's not narrated by the author. However, it's narrated by a man with a similar accent. The author is Welsh. And so you really do feel his emotions, his frustrations with Whitney Circle, his love and admiration of Whitney Houston. He fought so hard to save her. And all stories, it's like there's one side, there's the other side, and somewhere in the middle, there's the truth. My biggest takeaway is that while he did not ever see Whitney do drugs, he never witnessed it for himself. While he did not see that, I think him not seeing that I think he blamed a lot of people in her circle, including Bobby Brown, including her mother, including her brothers, the people who were making money off of her fame because she was so giving and loving and sharing and caring. There were just a lot of people that she was taking care of. And because he didn't see her actually do drugs, he did see, however, all of these people use and misuse and abuse her. I think that gave him this interesting perspective of blaming and shaming the Bobby Browns, the Sissy Houstons, the Robins, the Michaels, the Garys, the Pats, those people who were really not caring about her at all, only caring about what she could give them. And that took some of the ownership away. He didn't know a certain side of Whitney. Whitney would not let him see a certain side of her, I don't believe. And it's not that she was being phony. I think she was fighting some demons. And here was someone that she could spend time with and know, and who could know her at her most truest self, sans the demons. And, you know, her own battles, her internal battles and insecurities. I don't care to read or listen to a memoir by a Bobby Brown. I know Sissy Houston and Robin have memoirs out there, the late Sissy Houston. I don't care, because my instinct has always given me enough insight to know that those individuals played a role in her demise. Here was a man whose job it was to protect her, who needed nothing from her except, you know, a paycheck. And he even explains how he didn't need that. He was successful. So this man has nothing to gain. He had nothing to gain, and he had nothing to lose. And because of his role of being a protector, I think it gave him a certain perspective and insight to what was going on around him that, for me as a Whitney Houston fan, I needed to hear. So let's think about and discuss my first takeaway from Protecting Whitney. Perhaps one of the biggest takeaways for me is the power and danger of loyalty. Whitney Houston had a team around her, and I'm not saying that they weren't people, individuals in her life who didn't care about her, but not everyone had her best interest in heart. Both things can be true. You can love someone and not have their best interest at heart, especially whenever you have your own agenda. David Roberts highlights how blind loyalty, whether from friends, family, or employees, can sometimes enable destructive behavior instead of protecting someone. So my takeaway is to surround yourself with people who will tell you the truth, even when it's hard, and even when you are in a position of power, whether that be financially or other means. Real love and friendship mean looking out for each other, not just saying yes to keep the peace, or not just saying yes to keep the bank account rolling. The ending, the epilogue, it's him talking to Whitney on the other side. Again, I would never speak ill of anyone, especially people, individuals whom I don't know personally. The reality is we all play a role in the lives of others, especially loved ones, whether we play that role directly or indirectly. David Roberts did an exceptional job writing this memoir. I relished every word. It gave me an experience that awakened all 5 of my senses. It was quite nostalgic given the time period of the 80s and 90s in which he is discussing. And I had a deep appreciation for how David Roberts blended his time with Whitney Houston along with his own personal lived experiences. I really found that his personal life was equally riveting to the life of Whitney Houston and being her bodyguard. Those personal life experiences that occurred before he met Whitney Houston, from during his stint as her bodyguard, and even after, were just eye-opening and enlightening all at once. Perhaps one of the most endearing elements of this memoir is that David Roberts referred to Whitney Houston as his principal. And although that has a professional connotation, being the bodyguard of Whitney Houston, you could feel and sense how that professional term evolved into a loving and endearing reference to Whitney. I'm not caught up in celebrities. I've met celebrities. Whitney Houston is one of 2 celebrities that felt like I knew them and I had a special empathy for, as if I knew them. Not in a weird kind of way, but her music, the way she communicated through her voice, that voice. When you have artists that transcend the art itself, they're going to touch the deepest part of souls that they will never encounter in person. So I know I'm not the only one who feels that way about Whitney Houston because of the power that God gave her, that voice, that gift that he gave her. And because of that, her life and the downward spiral and her in those later years, or that last year or two of her life, it was really like the last year I remember seeing her trying to restore and renew and reset, was a journey that I was so moved by and also saddened to see she had lost her voice. And I had her last album. I was one of those people who bought it the day it came out in support, knowing the Whitney we knew was no longer there. So it was like, for fans, like she passed away twice. We lost the voice, and then we lost the woman. Every one of us has a destiny. Clearly, this was Whitney's destiny. No matter how you feel about it, no matter how heartbreaking it is, this was her destiny, for her life to unfold the way it did and for it to end the way it did. And that brings me to my second takeaway. Fame doesn't shield you from life struggles. Whitney was one of the biggest stars in the world, but she still battled personal demons, pressure, addiction, and the weight of expectations. Her story is a reminder that success doesn't automatically bring happiness nor peace. So no matter how successful someone appears on the outside, they're still human. We all need to prioritize our mental health, set boundaries, and take care of ourselves beyond just personal achievements. This gentleman who was her bodyguard, he's done a stellar job, and people are not talking about this book. Robin's book got a lot more media coverage and attention for obvious reasons. There's like love wrapped into it. Sissy, that's her mother. The bodyguard is like, other than the little spin on the movie and Kevin Costner, plus so much time has gone by. People are not talking about it. They're not, no one had even reviewed the audiobook as of the time I just finished it. And that's a shame. I want people to spread the word. She's gone. We can't bring her back. And some people are like, oh, enough. We've already heard enough. You haven't heard this, okay? Like, you have not heard this perspective on Whitney Houston. I can promise you. The documentaries, the interviews, the books, you have not heard this. Look, I even got my little head wrap on, no makeup, just got out of the shower, getting ready to cook dinner, and I had to stop everything to tell you, you have to listen to this audiobook. You guys, it is so easy to admire Whitney for her talent and judge her for her struggles. I feel like she has been so unfairly judged and ridiculed and made fun of and criticized. But Protecting Whitney, this memoir reminds us that she was a human first and foremost. She wasn't just the voice. She was a daughter, a mother, a friend, someone who loved deeply and fought battles that we will never fully understand. So the takeaway with that is, instead of focusing on her mistakes or the tragedy of her story, remember the joy that she gave to the world. Whitney's voice lifted people. It lifted people. It made us feel in ways that we couldn't even imagine until we experienced it. Her music was there for all of us through our own highs and lows, our loves, our joys, our challenges. If we truly admire her, let's honor her legacy with compassion, because everyone, famous or not, deserves to be seen beyond their hardest moments.